first time that data to the chips deserves all the problems we're about to have. Okay. Now, notice I mentioned over here, this is the event library. We have the ability to ingest from a camera or to ingest from cards that we copy. We can, if it's playable on QuickTime, any QuickTime movie can be played inside Final Cut. Everything that I'm working in my training that I'm demoing tonight was a QuickTime movie that was shot as far away as 2004. We're still editing with it. Notice that I have an event here. It's a music event. I'm going to grab the slide and open it up. I've got a music event. I've got a chroma key event. I've got a picture-in-picture event. I've got a Dr. Vic Surf and interview event. And I realized that this picture-in-picture, for some reason, ended up on my boot drive. This is just stupid. Why would I ever put it on my boot drive? I need to move it. So you select it, you go up to File, and you say Move Event. It says, where do you want to put it? I want to put it on my portable drive. Great. I'm now taking all this snowboard footage, and notice that it's now moved it. Twirl up, twirl up, twirl up, twirl up. It's now moving that snowboard footage over to the new drive. But it's doing it in the background. You click this circle right here, which shows the background processing, background analysis, background rendering, background media transfer, background exporting. If it can be done in the background, it's done here. It says it's about 73% done. Yet, I find any clip in here, even though it's still being copied, I'm able to look at every single clip that was in its old location, even though it's still being copied to a new location. I haven't had to slow down yet. So a lot of the people are saying, oh, media management is awful. Actually, media management ain't bad at all. Let's take a look at another thing. There's a weird concept, the Final Cut Pro 7, that it's called a connected clip. When I was talking with Apple in February and again in April, and sharing with them where I thought the program was lacking, and I will share some of those ideas with you tonight. In detail, I was sharing where I thought the program needed help. Anyway, they said one thing that will work really, really hard to do is that you don't want to have your audio and your video clips get out of sync. Notice down here, the audio is actually married into a single clip. And we can see the waveform here. Not only can we see the waveform, watch what happens when I pull the volume up. The waveform gets bigger. Isn't it cool to be able to see how loud your waveform is? And not only that, if the waveform gets so close to zero that it's likely to distort, the tips of the waveform turn yellow, and the top of the waveform turns red, and your audio is getting ready to distort. So even if you don't know that 0 dB is the level over which you should never go, parse that sentence in a hurry, the picture will still warn you that perhaps red is not a good thing. And if you need to see more of the audio, there's these little switches. You'll see them in the corner. You see this switch here. You can say, just show me the waveform. Waveform. There's that yellow. See, look at that aggressive little thing standing out there. And, or you can say, show me an itty-bitty picture and show me lots of audio. I'm not changing the gain. I'm just changing the display. Or, I can't be bothered by seeing the audio and the video. Let me just see what I call the lozenges look like. You turn the switch and it's back on again. Well, I'm going to stay with the lozenges for just a second. I've got some music here. All these weird things bother me. Let's just go down to here. I don't want to see any grouping. Just give me the name of the project. You can customize exactly how the look of this event browser is, so I can now see all the different projects I've got. Imagine, if you will, that you've got 5 or 6 projects that you're pulling clips from. You could have a standard clip wheel and have it automatically loaded inside Final Cut and have access to it. For instance, here I've got some music cues. Let's try this one. Now, simple. Got to talk over the audio. Pull the gain down just a bit. Perfect. Okay, good. Now, there were 5 people in the back hallway holding their hands up, and we were saying, please let the pain stop. Does anybody remember how to set an in Final Cut 7? Letter I. Put your playhead where you want the in to be, type the letter I, and you're there. Put the playhead where you want the out to be, type the letter O, and the playhead goes there. Now we could drag this clip to the timeline by simply click hold and dragging it down. Oh, children, no professional editor drags to the timeline. talk about them, but I just want to show them that they're there. We can turn the scopes on and off in the settings with them. Guys, go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. I got to remember where that keyboard show is. Anyway, I've got this down. In the past, we've had to work with an override edit and an insert edit. An override edit would edit the clip at the position of the playhead and delete whatever landed on top of it. It's the best edit to use. It's the most efficient, but for people that don't understand it, it's terrifying because all of a sudden media is disappearing. The other edit is actually called the insert edit, which is where it breaks the timeline at the position of the playhead, pushing everything to the right. Notice that I have 3 clips here. I'm going to put my playhead in the middle of clip number 2. I'm going to select clip number 3. And notice that this selected range up here, there are 3 buttons. There's button 1, button 2, or button 3. Or if you count the other way, this is button 1, button 2, and button 3. But I'm going to click this button right here. Watch the timeline in 2, 1, woof. The clip ignores where my playhead was. It ignores the selected clip, and it puts whatever clip was highlighted in the event browser at the end of the timeline. Always. Put the playhead way after. Always puts it at the end. So that's one form of an edit. It's called an append edit. Keyboard shortcut is the letter E. The next is, let's go find a piece of video here. And we'll just select this. I'm going to drag out. I'm going to set it in, set it out. I could type the letter I, the letter O. And now I do an insert edit, middle button. Notice that it breaks the timeline at the position of the playhead, pushing everything down. And it inserts. This is exactly the same way that we work with inside Final Cut 7. Command Z to undo. Here's the new one. And the new one, I'll put the playhead near the beginning, but not at the beginning. Take the same piece of video and click this clip right here. It creates what's called a connected clip. See that little thing that's right there? That connected clip means, and this is just so cool. I look at this, if I grab this clip, notice I grab the clip on what's called the primary storyline, B1, A1, and B2. Grab the clip on the primary storyline, I drag it. Notice that my B-roll clip moves with it. If I put this clip earlier, it automatically shuffles everything that's attached to that clip and changes its position. It's called the magnetic timeline. To prove this point is go back to our music. I said magnetic timeline. This has got to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Who in their right mind would ever want to edit using the magnetic timeline? And this thing is so hot, I can't stand it. Because what it means is, remember how you would have clips that would suddenly get out of sync? By the way, keyboard shortcut for that is Q. The letter E doesn't append edit. The letter right next to it is W. W doesn't insert edit. The letter right next to that's Q. Q does a connect edit. Override still exists. Keyboard shortcut's the letter Q. And I can have connected clips apply to connected clips, so it's the letter Q. I can even have a connected clip apply to another connected clip, which applies to the third connected clip. And you're asking, well, just how many layers do we have? Nobody has a clue. I asked Apple, and they said, we haven't really maxed it out yet. So I now have an audio clip attached, and a primary clip, and a couple secondary clips. And I want to put this at the end of the sequence. Okay, everybody shuffle up. I grab the primary clip, drag it down. If I drop it here, it's now in the middle. No, I'm going to take this clip. I want to put it up here. Actually, I want this clip. I want to move it up there. Except this clip comes over down the back here. You could go nuts with this. We've never had this kind of flexibility before, and my sync has not changed because the audio and the video remains perfectly attached. Because all of my audio and all of my video in this talking head is contained inside this first clip. So wherever I drag the first clip, I don't have to drag the audio file with it. And if the audio file is not just a mono track, but it's a dual channel track, or stereo track, or surround track, or it could be multiple tracks, I could stack them all together. I have, remember nesting. Nesting has now got this. This is such a complex clip. Look at how this has to be fixed. All right, so what we do is we create what's called a compound clip. Keyboard shortcut is Option G. Boom. It now is coalesced into a single clip. Just as nesting works, it's just a clear interface. If you need to tweak it, double click it. It automatically opens up into its own timeline, and you can do stuff with it. Now I've had the timeline index open, And what this allows me to do is to highlight clips by looking at the index. Let's say you've got 75 clips in the timeline and you're trying to find that shot where it's talking about the interplanetary internet. You just have to select it. Or I want to find the one clip where the word ground exists inside the clip. Click on it right here. If I wanted to find, let's say I put a marker in. Let's put a marker here. Put a marker there. Keyboard shortcut, the letter M for a marker. It goes to the base primary short storyboard. Goes to the primary storyline, unless you have something selected. Notice MS Brown Throat was selected. But notice down mountain is not, so it puts the marker inside this. Now, if I go over to the tags category, and I say show me all of my markers, I now have people are watching. I see all my markers, and I see them all in the timeline. And don't, because I've got a search here going on. You thought I wasn't paying attention? You know, it helps if you talk to your computer. It really does. It really doesn't hurt the computer's feelings. It always makes me feel a whole lot better. So we're going to go to, I want to go to marker number 2. Notice it jumps right there. I say, take marker 2 and just delete it. So I'll hit the delete key and marker 2 is gone. But I can actually watch this. Because I'm going to set a marker and open up the edit marker dialog by typing the letter M a second time. And we now have to-do items. I can say make this a to-do item. Larry, I use that because it's my name. Larry, this is a to-do item. But it doesn't show over in my marker list. Well, that's because it's a to-do item. It shows up in my to-do list. And if in my to-do list, notice that this to-do marker is red, because you should stop and get it done. That's what to-do items are. You're supposed to do your to-do items, and when your to-do item is done, you click it, and now your to-do item is a to-done item. And look at that. It doesn't show up in the uncompleted to-dos. It shows up in the to-dos instead. What I'm sharing with you in this brief time we've got together is that there's a lot of thought that's gone into Final Cut Pro 7. That's point number 1. Point number 2, even Apple admits, as I've asked them, the Final Cut Pro 7 is not in its finishing state. For some people, Final Cut Pro 7 is what number? It's important to note that nobody in the hall said X. I'm so proud of you. Final Cut Pro 10. Final Cut Pro 10, for some people, is going to be perfect out of the box. But for most of us, not quite yet. And there's 2 principal reasons why not quite yet. The first, and for me, the absolute biggest reason is because the developer community, the Black Magic Designs, the Ajas, the Gen Arts, and everybody else, needs time to make sure their software works. I mean, I can't function without working with all of my plugins, and it's got to take their time. Well, until Apple ships a product, I've developed software. Until Apple puts a stake in the ground and says, this is the product, then I can't develop it, because otherwise I'm just spinning my wheels. So they got to release it before we can fix it. So we've got to give it 3 months just for the third-party development community to come on board. Then, we have to look at what Apple left out. And they left out for me some really important things. Multi-cam isn't there. I think it's brain dead. I've told Apple I think it's brain dead. Apple nods their head. They left out the ability to output a high-quality tape. For those of you delivering to networks that need to lay off to HDCAM and SR, we can't do that yet. For those that are, I am a huge sound fan, and I'm a big fan of Soundtrack Pro, and it broke my heart when Soundtrack Pro wasn't shipped with this version. And Apple has done a fabulous job of improving the sound capability inside Final Cut 10, but not the mixing capability. The mixing is about as good as the mixing was inside Final Cut 3. Filters, world class. The ability to have the multiple tracks, the database nature, I